Hello everyone, welcome to another Magic Arena deck tech. So we're going to be going over Pauper today, and this is my first test with this deck, 5-0, it was really nice. I think this deck is pretty solid, and honestly none of the games felt particularly close, so we didn't have the best draws either. It wasn't like I had really awesome 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop kind of draws, and I mean every game felt easily in hand if I played it properly, so this is a pretty cool deck. I'm really liking Pauper as a format and all of the new formats that are coming to Magic Arena. Things like the Singleton and the Pauper are going to be really, really fun. They're going to cycle through it, so you might notice that this one is ending right away, but they are going to bring it back, just like they do with all the Singleton events. And what we have today is Blue-Green Merfolk. So it seems like most of the people that are playing in the Pauper events are playing it in a pretty aggressive manner. There's a lot of like blue-red artificers running around, using things like Improvise to get out the 4/4 hexproof creature, the Bastion Inventor, things like Inventor's Goggles, using a bunch of Artificers that way, and also like a bunch of like fairly red-based aggro decks and stuff like that. So I really like this deck. It's got some pretty good counters for some of that, while still being very aggressive in its own right. So what it does is it protects its own creatures by having some hexproof ones, by having things like our Jungleborn Pioneer, so you can get the 1/1 blue Merfolk with hexproof. But it also has ways to protect it by just having like a bunch of pump spells and dive downs. So you've got 2 shed weakness, 2 dive downs, and we have 4 River Heralds Boon. So they work on both ends of the spectrum. There's going to be some shocks and things running around, and you don't really have to worry about them as much when you have some good pump spells. And River Heralds Boon means that you get to deal damage back to your opponent. So even if they do it on appropriately, if they do it on their turn so that you can't have a pump spell and then attack them, because this is a counters, you can still do that, right? If they try and kill a 2/2, you can just pump it with River Heralds Boon and then crack back, which is pretty sweet. And like I said, you also have some things that just have hexproof. You also have dive downs to help protect them. And something else that's kind of important, because so many other people are running really, really heavy, like aggro, tempo kind of decks. There's a lot of Cartouche of Knowledge running around. You have Unsummon. So you're going to stop your opponent from setting things up. I've seen some Oaken forms. Really, really nice to just bounce it, get it out of the way, not have to worry about it again. The other thing that we have, of course, Merfolk. Lots of unblockability, so not just in actual unblockability, although we do have Mist-Cloaked Herald, and we do have Storm Sculptor to stop blocking. There's also just some flying things. So we have our own Cartouches of Knowledge, which I mentioned, like everybody's running them. They're fantastic. They're really, really aggressive, draw you an extra card, flying is huge, so they're great that way. We also have 4 Shaper Apprentice. It just makes it really, really hard for us to be blocked. Even on top of that, like we have Deeproot Warriors. So whenever it becomes blocked, it gets +1/+1. I had a couple of opponents that almost walked into this, where they forgot that it would get the +1/+1. So I'm waiting for somebody to make the mistake of that. And it's just a tough card to block. Like, it's attacking essentially as a 3/3 if they try and do combat damage to it on turn 2. Well, that's a little bit tough for a lot of people. Like, that's a really, really good starting rate, especially in Pauper, where there's not going to be a super high caliber of card. So I've really liked those. We have Jade Bearer. Jade Bearer is one that I could see maneuvering around. Like, you might want some extra Tishana's Wayfinders if you want to go a little bit later game. Maybe you want to put in another Shed Weakness and dive down. Probably not. I think that we have about as many non-creature spells as we'd want. But you could try and look at some options for this. But I really liked it with Storm Sculptor, which is when you enter the battlefield, you have to return a creature you control to its owner's hand. Well, it's pretty cool when you can do it with like Mist-Cloaked Herald, but it's even better when you can do it with Jade Bearer. Jade Bearer is also nice because, like I said, we do have the hexproof off of the Jungleborn Pioneer, where we get a 1/1 Merfolk with hexproof, and being able to just pump that one up is really big. There's a lot of times where you just stop your opponent from being able to do anything because you can't interact with my giant hexproof flyer if you put a cartouche on it. Any case, I mean, it's all just a lot of like really aggressive, costed, cheap creatures. You can see like Jungleborns and Tishana's Wayfinder to get some exploration in there as well, just like a little bit of extra value. Normally just a 3/3 for 3. You probably just don't want to hit lands. We don't have many in the deck anyways. We have 22. And of course, Jungleborn Pioneer to make the 1/1. Storm Sculptor just to be getting around things, but a lot of it is like 1-drops and 2-drops, and then a whole lot of tempo and various pump spells and things to protect them. And yeah, I mean, it's really basic, but a pretty sweet deck. We're going to run it through a gauntlet and see how it does.